One of the hardest parts about buying a GPU is, well, first having the money to do it, second deciding which model you want, and then deciding between all the different partner variants that are on the market. This can be a challenge as newer GPUs are getting bigger, more power hungry, they have RGB, they don't have RGB, and they just have a huge selection of features that you need to choose from. So how do you determine which one's best for you without blowing your money on the wrong one? Well, PowerColor is aiming to set the new gold standard.
This video is brought to you by SCD Key. Are you tired of overpaying for Windows? Well, SCD Key has got you covered for a Windows 10 Pro OEM key for a crazy low price. All you do is click on the link in the description below. Make your selection and click buy now. On top of that, you can get an additional 25% off using my discount code BPC25 for a limited time. The best part is you can fast and secure checkout using PayPal. Type in activation settings, click on change product key, paste in your brand new key, click next, then activate. Now you're all set. You can also get a great deal on Microsoft Office with the link in the description below using my offer code.
Now, if you're new to PC or maybe just new to AMD and thinking about switching from Team Green, you may not know that PowerColor has been building some of the best AMD GPUs for years. And at the tippy top of that is the Red Devil model. The best part about it is PowerColor has been upping their game and making better and better cards with things that gamers actually want. And a few things maybe we don't, but at least they're taking chances and trying to innovate and do new things. The downside is that with all their innovation, there's still one big problem that they can't control for this generation, and maybe one that they can. Like I already mentioned, the Red Devil is a premium card with a little bit of that gamer attitude. While the styling may not be for everybody, you have to at least give them credit for pulling the stick out of their ass and actually trying something new and taking some chances. Where they didn't take a chance was on presentation for a mid-tier card. When you open it up, you're actually greeted with a better experience than some 4090s like the WindForce from Gigabyte. But again, that was an MSRP card, so it was the cheapest of the cheap for the 4090, but still, for a mid-tier card, that's not bad. They provide you with a pretty beefy GPU holder, which honestly you should use because she's pretty chonky. You get an adjustable RGB cable with it to ensure that your rig is fully synced and color matching, or at least give you another RGB header to use. You also get a gallery card here so you can show off your Red Devil in your rig and see some other people to maybe get some inspiration. There is another card there for their Devil skins, but we'll get to that in a minute. Styling, of course, is subjective, so you have to make that decision on your own, and there are some things to be aware of, including my first problem with this GPU. This generation of Red Devil has these Devil skins, which I think is honestly a really nice touch and a cool feature, but herein lies the problem. The 7700 XT does not come with a single one. Mind you, the backplate itself is good enough looking to not need one. The issue is, I think it should come with at least one. I know PowerColor can't include all of them because they would have to increase their GPU cost to NVIDIA standards, but I think one is a fair ask. Obviously there is RGB, which is customizable. There is a Devil on the backplate, which is cool, and I really like the lighting accents around the center fan. There is this Devil's Eye on the end here, which is another way to enhance the overall theme. However, it looks kind of odd, like a
vagina.
But hey, I guess the Devil is supposed to be tempting, right? And it should know what gamers want. So why choose this card? Well, the main reason you even look at add-in board partner cards is for a better cooling solution and potentially an OC, and the Red Devil, of course, has both. Even though the Devil's from hell, and from what I hear it's supposed to be hot there, temps are kept in the human range with this well-designed heatsink. Not only is it huge, but it's a triple fan design, and PowerColor has their updated 9-blade ring fans. These are designed to increase static pressure and ram air through this massive heatsink. There's a direct copper heatsink plate large enough to dissipate heat from the die itself and the VRAM. The heat pipe arrangement is also designed to work with this larger die and further increase cooling efficiency. This generous cooling solution also allows the fan to spin at a much slower speed. So if you're someone where the noise drives you crazy or fan ramping bugs you, kind of like me, this is likely the GPU for you. The performance of this card over other models is slightly improved again due to this overkill cooler, which allows the GPU to hang on to higher boost clocks longer since it can keep those temps down. There is one caveat to this, and it's not that big problem yet, but we'll talk about it after the benchmarks. The specs for all 7700 XTs are pretty standard until you get to the clock speeds. You can see by the spec sheet that the Red Devil has a higher boost and game clock. The boost clock is mild, but the game clock sits 100 MHz higher than the standard model. This is sure to provide some extra FPS. But don't forget, most modern GPUs will keep cranking up the clock speed as long as there is temperature and power headroom, so the clocks don't necessarily stop there. Another standout is the total board power. It sits at 245 watts, which I think is fair based on the horsepower this card brings to the table. Speaking of horsepower, let's get to what most of you want to see. For this video, guys, I've updated my testing and I'm including more info that you guys have been asking for, and will be doing this moving forward. I ran all the benchmarks at default high settings with no tweaks or adjustments. I did them at 1080p, 1440p, and 4K. I did the runs with RT on and then with the addition of FSR. I also ran 1080p with SAM, no RT or FSR, so you can see the benefits of or disadvantages of using SAM by itself. So let's jump into the benchmarks so we can talk about that big problem afterwards. We'll start off with Speedway, which is a newer benchmark that stresses GPUs against modern gaming features, and the 7700 XT does well here. TimeSpy is great for showing compatibility at older gaming engines, and the Devil of course slays this test. Port Royal. AMD still has some work to do when it comes to ray tracing, but the 7700 XT demonstrates that they'll get there, and soon, hopefully. Rainbow Six Siege is a game where high FPS count and reflexes matter, so hopefully you'll be happy with over 200 FPS at 4K. Horizon 5 can be a challenge to run when you turn on all the bells and whistles, which again is not a problem even at 4K, and just wait till we get to the ray tracing tests. F1 2022 continues the trend with the Red Devil slaying 1080p, 1440p, and even 4K, maintaining great FPS, which is awesome for keeping those racing lines. Cyberpunk gives us our first glimpse that this devil was once human. 1080p and 1440p are well above 60 FPS and leave room to turn up the settings. 4K makes the devil sweat, which is fair for basically any GPU. Borderlands is a surprisingly difficult game to run, and the 7700 XT makes it look easy at all resolutions. Just keep in mind this is an AMD favorite title. Horizon Zero Dawn keeps the pattern alive by keeping FPS above 60 even at 4K, which is pretty solid performance. Watch Dogs is a beautiful game once you crank up the settings and flick on RT. When you do this, you'll be happy you have the extra VRAM offered by the 7700 XT. Jumping into ray tracing, all these tests were done at the maximum setting for RT, so this should be the worst case scenario possible. When FSR was on, it was set to quality because if I'm going to use it, I want the best fidelity possible. Forza is a great place to start as it shows how well AMD has improved with its RT performance. At 1080p, the 7700 XT hammers out 154 FPS with RT cranked. However, FSR only adds 4 FPS to that total. Cyberpunk, however, at 1080p continues to demonstrate AMD's need for improvement by bringing the 7700 XT down to 33 FPS. FSR does kind of save the day with a 33% increase to 44 FPS, which is on the edge of playable. Watch Dogs perform better and maintain a surprising 63 FPS with RT maxed out, which is how I prefer to play this game. FSR is just not supported with this title. F1 again shows AMD hanging in there with over 100 FPS with RT on. FSR makes this fairly impressive with 175 FPS. When it comes to SAM or resizable bar or rebar, I'm going to keep this part quick for you guys. SAM or rebar can really add performance to a game and help keep it above 60 FPS or simply send it higher into the clouds. The part people tend to forget is some games just don't work well with it and can actually hurt performance. Watch Dogs had strange results. I retested this so many times because it made me crazy. It maintained FPS in 1440p, gained FPS in 4K, but lost FPS in 1080p. So this is something you may need to test with the games that you play. But for the most part, the Red Devil had gains of over 10%, and that's a good excuse to turn up the settings in my opinion. Real quick, before we get to that big problem, I want to let you know that I'm doing multiple follow-up videos of the 7700 XT versus a slew of other GPUs, so get subscribed if you want to see those. Now that you've seen the benchmarks, you can tell this is an awesome GPU, and like I mentioned before, the oversized cooler helps the Red Devil pump out some serious FPS because it can maintain those boost clocks. The sad truth is most other triple fan designs will perform pretty well and fall within a few percent of this GPU. The difference is the Red Devil will probably do it at a little bit lower temp and hopefully be a little bit quieter in the process. The other pro is the Devil will likely give you better overclocking results if you like to tinker, and it'll look good doing it. The 7700 XT starts at $449, and for just $40 more, you can get the Red Devil, which in my opinion is a hell of a bargain for the overkill cooler, the tastefully gamery styling and the fact that it's simply a great performer. That bargain, however, is overshadowed by that big problem, which is just around the corner. For 10 bucks more, you can get any basic 7800 XT for $499, which is just more performance any way you want to look at it. So should you buy it? And the answer to that is not yet. I've heard through the grapevine that once the Starfield bundle goes away, the 7700 XT may actually start to trickle down in price, especially as we get closer to the holiday shopping season. However, it's expected that AMD will not lower the price of the 7800 XT, and this should widen the gap between the two price points. This could potentially allow the 7700 XT to become a bargain all by itself. Mind you, this could completely change depending on how sales go, because AMD's been pretty tight-lipped about what they plan to do in their strategy, but there's potential for the 7700 XT to age like a fine wine and become a bargain, much like the 6700 XT did as its price started to come down. Now, if you can't wait for the follow-up and you want a little bit of a refresher course on the 6700 XT, you can check out my video up here. Until that time, do me a favor, please hit that like, subscribe button, and I'll catch you in the next one.